Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle podcast. You are being hosted by me, Nicola. Again, I feel like it has been a while since I've been on one of these because I like to go to bed early and the boys like to record late, so I'm never normally on. But
late is 8 o'clock, by the way. At the
late,
moment.
sometimes.
Yeah, but I'm up early. I am up early.
Kev's
Sorry.
newborn goes to bed later than you.
I know. Honestly, I'm pathetic. And that kindly introduces me to my first guest, Michael, who has stepped in for Kev this evening. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. How about you?
Good. Yep, I am good. And then my second guest, Iain. How are you? Just staring.
Great. I am great, thank you, Nicola. And not quite as full of Sunday roast and wine as you allegedly are, of course.
Yeah,
Save
I did
mine
go
for
for a
later on.
carvery. Yeah, I did go for a carvery. It was lovely. We are recording after the Newcastle and Brighton game this afternoon. So it is a Sunday. So as Kylie just said, had a Sunday roast this afternoon. But when you're listening to this, it will be Monday. And we'll have forgotten all about the Brighton game, won't we? Everyone nod.
Well,
We'll
Everyone
be
nod.
focused
not
on
a lot
next
to
week,
remember,
for
to be
sure.
honest.
Right, let's just delve straight into it. So we all spoke during the week on our different recordings. I spoke with Joe about how important the last 4 games are of the season, and in true Newcastle style, they absolutely fold like deck chairs against Brighton. No, that's being mean. It was a game of, well, I
Little
thought,
bit.
of two teams that didn't do much, to be honest. But I will just come to you both and just simply ask, how are you feeling about that result? Obviously, it was a draw, 1-1, so we didn't lose any points, but we also only gained 1. So, Iain, I will come to you first.
Yeah, I was quite disappointed watching it. I didn't think I don't think we attacked it with the sort of zest that I wanted to. We sort of stood off them a little bit. And as they were intent on, once they'd scored, standing off us to make sure that they didn't concede, it was a really, we had loads of the ball and
Yeah.
we made some great passes, and most of it was in front of their team, so we didn't seem to do very much. There was a little bit of spice added with a few penalties that were awarded, which even from my couch you could see weren't penalties, but VAR spent a minute or two deciding they weren't. Until the last one, when suddenly it switched into a basketball game, that was clearly a penalty. So I was really disappointed. I thought we had the momentum. I really wanted 3 points because I think the away game at Arsenal is harder than this one.
Yeah.
And having watched Chelsea dismantle Liverpool this afternoon, I think
know.
the home game against Chelsea is going to be harder than this one. But anyway, I'm trying to take the positive and the bright side, and that a 1-1 draw is actually our best ever result against Brighton in the Premier League at their place, because we've never beaten them. I'm guessing a 1-1 draw must be better than the 0-0 draw that we had before. So no, look, it's a bogey ground. We could easily, 85 minutes in, still trailing 1-0, 2 penalties overturned by VAR. I'm thinking it's a typical Newcastle 1-0 loss to a team that you shouldn't lose to. So I'm absolutely delighted that we got that win, that equaliser in the 89th minute, and disappointed we couldn't get a winner in the last 10 minutes that were added for injuries and VAR stoppages, etc. But really, it's a point that I'm glad we've got, because we could easily have ended up with none.
Yeah. I've got to be honest, I thought at one point it was, obviously we had the 2 penalty decisions overturned, which quite rightly, they definitely weren't penalties. Then obviously their defender got away with a red. Obviously we'll touch on that in a minute. And I just thought there's no way. It's one of these days when Newcastle are just not gonna score. And then obviously they did. So thankfully I'm on the same page as you, Iain. I'm happy that we got the point in the end, because I did think it was a game of where 2 teams just weren't doing much at points. So yeah, I definitely feel the same. Michael, do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I agree that I'm delighted with the point.
Yeah.
I think the Amex is a tricky place to go, although it hasn't been as tricky this year for some teams as it has others, but it's always difficult for us. I don't think many of us expected to walk over Brighton. We know they're a tough team. They're in the fight for Europe as well. I am disappointed with the performance, if I'm honest. As you said, there was very little there, and I think there's very few players who had a good game. Tonali. All the build-up this week was, have we ever seen Sandro Tonali have a bad game? Well, now you have. Bruno's still the best midfielder in the world. Well, he wasn't today. Joe Willock got a lot of stick today as well, and I actually thought he was the better of the three midfielders. At least tried to make something happen.
Yeah.
All round for her. Wasn't a great day, but the result, great. If you can play poorly and still get a good result, it's a sign of a good team. Move on to Chelsea. I'm happy.
You're happy. You're good.
Yeah. Convincing myself I'm happy.
Yeah. We'll forget about this result tomorrow. This could be...
Sorry, Nicola, can I just add that I'm only happy for us to get our point, having watched the game start and unfold, because I listened earlier in the week to the guy from the Brighton Argus and Telegraph, or whatever it's called, talk to the Newcastle Chronicle man, and he predicted that Newcastle would win 3-1. He didn't think that Brighton had a prayer. His wildest dreams, he was hoping it would end up as a 1-1 draw, because Brighton have been in such poor form. They've been so leaky in defence. They had so many players out injured. Still today, no Matoma, I don't think, was there? And this development wasn't fit enough to get start. So I know we've never won there, but I thought, like it at the Arsenal game, like at Manchester United, it is a season where we rewrite the record books and we don't get hung up on these long-standing records. So I really expect us to win today. So I am disappointed with that result, like Michael is, but having watched the game unfold, I'm absolutely delighted that we've escaped with a point from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really important point, given that City and Chelsea have both won.
I know. Yeah, we're going to touch on the City and Chelsea results probably in the second part. Because, they haven't really gone our way at all, have they? Let's just focus on the lineup first, obviously, before the game's unfolded. Me and Joe, the other day, we were speaking about who we expected to obviously come in and replace, obviously, Big Joe, because obviously he's out with an injury, and I don't know if we're going to see him by the end of the season, probably not. And we were discussing about who do we think he's going to pick? Do we think it's going to be Joe Willock? Do we think it's going to be Lewis Miley? Blah, blah. Were you guys surprised to see that Joe Willock was the one to be picked? I actually originally said that I'd like to see him start. Michael, did you think we would see someone different, or were you not surprised to see Joe Willock?
I was Joe Willock all the way. I mean, I would love to see Lewis Miley start. I think out of the three, he's the one that's going to be there for the longest. He's got a really good future with Newcastle. But like for like, Joe Linton, when you're in these final four games and you can't really afford to take risks, you need the most like for like player, and that is unfortunately a player that hasn't been on form this season, Joe Willock. I do think he was a lot better today than what we've seen previously. I thought he was one of the few players that decided to drive with the ball and actually put the defence under pressure at Brighton.
Yep.
But we can get into that later. But I think, I wasn't surprised to see Joe Willock at all.
Yeah, Iain, I know you're a massive Lewis Miley fan.
I am a massive Lewis Miley fan. I wasn't surprised that Willock started because he was first pick last week. And to be honest, though, Joe Willock is not like for Joe Linton. Joe Willock is much more pacey, dynamic, up the wing. He's far more an attacking winger, left-sided player than he is shoring up the defence on the left-hand side. Lewis Miley is far more suited to that, because we've seen him play a holding midfield role in the Champions League games when everybody was out injured. I don't know if it might be a little bit of a curveball to throw into a game like that, to put Lewis Miley and make him play as the six and give Tonali a little bit more freedom to go forward with Bruno, and that could completely bamboozle what Brighton were thinking we were going to line up with. Because we've become very predictable when we pick the same team week after week after week, however good these players are. I just think, us mixing it up a little bit could even if it takes them 10 minutes to adjust, we could be 2 up after those 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I think that Miley can play a holding midfield role and let Tonali burst forward a little bit. In patches, why not try that? It was so obvious what was going to happen. And Willock was well marked, and Tonali was well marshalled. That's why Tonali and Bruno didn't really get much of a kick. They did the same job on them at home as they did when they played them at St James's Park, which was to get really tight on them
Yeah,
and push them over all of the time,
yeah.
disrupt
It's a
the game.
difficult. He's a difficult player to replace, if you like, Joe Linton, because he's one of them
Yeah,
players that just. I mean, all the pundits say it, like particularly. I mean, obviously we're going back a month or two now, but on the Carabao Cup final day, everyone was saying he must be an absolute menace to play against because he's just everywhere. He's everywhere on the pitch. Like no one does it like Big Joe does he sometimes. So he's just definitely a difficult player to replace. Let me break here for the first ad, and then we'll talk a bit more about missing Joe Linton in the second part. So I'm just going to play our sponsor by Bioniq, which is read out by the lovely Ken.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements, designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
I don't know if anyone's watching, but Michael and Ian have just been playing a game of charades while that advert's been read out. I will put the web link into the show description notes so you guys can check out Bioniq. And we're back for part 2.
right.
So, bravo. So, I don't know if you guys follow like Twitter, but it's now X, isn't it?
Yes.
I know you do, Michael, because I see you on it quite a lot. But if anyone that was banging on about Newcastle finishing second over the weekend before the Brighton game, if you could all just deactivate your accounts, that would be absolutely fantastic because that hasn't gone away. Ian, what's happened to our run to being second?
Well, do you know what? I still think we'll finish ahead of Arsenal. I just think Man City will
Yeah,
finish ahead of us. Yeah.
yeah.
That draw
Well,
means Man City have got a point ahead of us instead of us being a point ahead of them. But I think Arsenal will lose at Liverpool, and I think we'll beat them. And yeah, they'll pick 3 points up against Southampton. But I think we'll finish ahead of them. I do.
I wish I could be
But
this
I think
confident.
City will win. I think City will win all of their next 3 games and be a point ahead of us at the end. So I don't
Okay.
mind really. I never could have cashed out my £400 winnings for finishing second for any more than 20 quid. So I'm happy to have
Fair.
let it run. And it's still on, you know. The,
Yeah,
the
it
Man
is.
City camp might be decimated by bubonic plague or something for the next game and not be very well and lose. Who knows?
True. Right, let's just touch on. We just spoke about Big Joe being missing. Let's be honest, he's probably not going to be. He's been recommended to rest, hasn't he? He's got a knee problem. We don't know how
Yeah.
serious it is. And obviously now we've only got 3 games left, so the chances of us seeing him again, I don't know. But obviously Eddie Howe said they're just going to take it a week at a time. Um, it's games like today, in my opinion, and for all of it counts, is where obviously it's players like Big Joe that we miss, and you can obviously evidently see it on the pitch. So my question to you guys is, how do we now approach the remaining games if Big Joe is missing? Because I do agree with you guys that Joe Willock did do a good job, but it's still a massive gap for me of where obviously Joey Linton's experience is to obviously the subs, if you like. So Michael, how impactful do you think Joey Linton is being missing to the team? Because for me, it's quite huge.
Yeah, Big Joe's one of our biggest players, no
Mm.
pun intended. But he's one of those where he is such a unique player that he's really hard to replace. And when I said Joe Willock was like for like, maybe it's most like for like out of the options available. And I think that's just because of the box to box style. And I think you can't change that when you've only got 3 games remaining, when
Yeah,
there's such pivotal games, because you make one tactical tweak and it goes wrong,
yeah,
it could cost you Champions League football at the moment. So how is a a bit of a stickler for knowing what he wants to do. And yes, he will tweak things. He's not an idiot. He's I'm not going to say a tactical genius, but he's very good at that side of things, and he overworks himself day and night on weaknesses and strengths. So he'll know where we are. He'll know what maybe needs to be changed. But I actually think it might be the wings where we see any potential change, and we can get to that a bit later. But I do think we don't change anything in midfield going forward, I don't think.
No. Iain, do you agree?
Well, I agree. I certainly think the tactics that we use are that I'm saying were obvious for Brighton to be able to deal with when we're playing away from home. They work at home. Crowd acts as the 12th man, and they work at home against everybody. And two of these games coming up are at home, so definitely no changes on that. Away at Arsenal, if you remember, he totally revamped our tactics to beat them 2-0 in the Carabao Cup semi-final.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if is Botman coming back? Is Botman going to be fit for that game? Because we could see three at the back and another tactical masterclass from Eddie Howe to win at Arsenal in a fortnight. I don't know. That's the only one where I might consider that he should change his hand and surprise Arteta.
We do like upsetting Arteta, don't we?
We love
Just
it.
a little bit.
Yeah, we love
it's quite fun.
It is. I really want to beat them. I'm going to touch on that game in the last part, but
can I just observe at that point, because it works, because they lost at home to Bournemouth, didn't they?
Bournemouth, yeah.
And if Liverpool beat them at Liverpool next week, and they lose in Paris to get knocked out of the Champions League just before that, we could inflict their fifth successive loss on them when we turn up to play them at their place.
Oh dear.
I don't think Arsenal haven't lost 5 in a row for I don't know how long. They're not Manchester City, are they?
No.
And the way Liverpool played today, you wouldn't be surprised if they ended up losing every game from the rest of the season.
Slot played all of the
second
string, didn't he?
Team's
having a look to see who's going to be sold.
Yeah, Endo was in there. Elliot. I mean, there was still Alisson, Trent, Van Dijk, Salah, Jota, Gakpo, Van Dijk.
Of all the days where I was rooting for Liverpool to do it a little bit of a favour, they didn't.
That was
great.
It's Liverpool.
Yeah.
They're never going to do us any favours.
Never. No, I know. Absolutely. Just while we're talking about, still obviously focus on the Newcastle-Brighton game, players like, I don't know, I feel like I give Callum Wilson a hard time because he did come close to a second chance, so I will ease off him a little bit. But players like Osula, what are players like this got to do to get on the pitch? Because we have spoken about this before, and I don't understand why, we have seen him a few times this season, but for me, sometimes Callum Wilson just isn't the answer to come on. I don't know if he's as impactful as what he once was I don't know. Is Eddie Howe seeing something different in training to what we're seeing on the pitch? Because for me, I really want to see Osula come on. It's a bit like you Iain, with Lewis Miley. You want to see Lewis Miley get more minutes, whereas I want to see Osula get the
I want Osula to get some more minutes as well.
Yeah,
I just think Eddie has years and years and years of trust that has been repaid with Callum Wilson.
Yeah,
and if he's seen Callum Wilson looking sharp again in training, knowing he's coming back from injuries, but there's not showing very much of that, then he's trusting him to bring him on and thinking, well, you're going to show it in a game at some point. Personally, I just think they take their toll. I don't think he's as fast. I've never seen him make that many sprints unless he's making lost cause sprints to close down the goalkeeper before the goalkeeper clears it, but he gets nowhere near. I don't know. I'd like to see. I think Osula should be the first change now. Sorry, Callum. I know. I'd love Callum Wilson to get one goal before the end of the season, so he scores 50 for Newcastle, and he can be released with a clear conscience, can't he?
A clear conscience. Michael, do you agree?
I might upset a few people here, but I actually understood Wilson over Osula today. I think when you look at the game, when Wilson was brought on, they were very much 10 men behind the ball.
Yeah.
Osula, when he comes on, I'm not saying he's a headless chicken, but he's very active, very, very much like, I hate to say it because I ridiculed a post for it earlier, but he's a bit like Joe Linton, where his touch isn't fantastic, but he gets around the pitch very quickly and he's very strong.
Yeah.
But he's more like that in a striker form. But what I will say is, when you've got 10 men behind the ball, you don't really want to be giving away those silly fouls that he does do. And you also need someone who's just a bit more clinical. We were getting the ball in and around the box. We just kind of needed someone to have a clinical touch. And that's what Callum Wilson has done for Newcastle for years.
Yeah,
It's not the player he is now, but in comparison to the last 5 or 6 games where he's come on, and I've completely agreed with you, Osula should have come on first. Today was the first time where, I was in the pub and Wilson came on, and every single person in the pub went, oh, and I was sitting there going,
that exact noise.
I actually, and sorry for anyone wearing earphones listening to this, because that can't have been pleasant. But I was actually sitting there going, you know what? This is the kind of game where Wilson could actually do something.
But he didn't, Michael. He didn't. He missed a sitter header, which fortunately he got away with because we got a penalty instead. But that ball from the handball bounced to him 3 yards out, and his header was so powerful from 3 yards, the keeper got over and saved it. He's a spent force. And I know Osula might look like a bit of a headless chicken, but he scored a fantastic header last week. And he also, the fantastic step over, had a shot. We needed a goal. We needed a goal.
I'll be honest, I'm surprised both of them didn't come on. Because I thought, Wilson comes on, and then I thought, 85th minute, if you haven't got a goal, take off Bruno, because Tonali was still willing to do a lot of running. I didn't think he was brilliant, Tonali, but he still did a lot of running. He got a couple of good interceptions, especially when they were trying to break. And bring on Osula then. So I would have personally brought on both, but I can understand why maybe Eddie didn't. But yeah, it's the end of an era for Wilson, and probably rightfully so. But yeah, today was the only time I think I'll ever sit there and go, yeah, Wilson should have come on instead of Osula. It didn't work out, but I understood it at the time. And hopefully we see the young man banging a lot more goals for Newcastle, maybe even this season.
I love his unpredictability. I love the fact that he'll just come on and teams just don't know what to expect because you haven't seen him play that much. So I just love him. I love his unpredictability.
Even in the little cameos that he's done, every single one of them, the goal against Bromley, the way he took that ball down from Pope and turned and skinned the fullback in one movement, the step over and the shot that hit, I think it was Bruno that knocked it. It went out for a goal kick. It hit one of the own players, but hit it so hard. And the header, there's enough there. I mean, he's done all of that in about 25 minutes this season. Get him on. Let's see what he can do. Give him a proper go.
Yeah, I agree.
I think.
Yeah. Just to end part 2, this would be probably the last sort of time we speak about the Brighton game. Speaking of 10 men, Michael, should Brighton have had their defender sent off? Yes, is the answer to that.
Yes, but as I just mentioned, I can understand Wilson over Osula. I can understand why the referee hasn't given a red card and why it hasn't happened, because the referee hasn't initially given the yellow card. If the referee gives the second yellow, he's off and it doesn't get retracted. It doesn't get changed by VAR at all. But when it goes to VAR, they can't change it and say, yes, give him a second yellow. It either has to be a straight red or nothing at all, which is a stupid rule.
Yeah.
But we'd have VAR every 2 minutes if it was for yellow cards as well. So maybe be careful what we wish for. But yeah, Wifer comes in, he slides in, takes out Tonali, he gets the ball first, which is the saving grace why the referee doesn't give the yellow card, but the studs are above the angle. Realistically, it should have been sent off, should have been a second yellow, would have changed the game. And to be honest, it would have impacted the game a lot more than 2 penalties that got ruled out by VAR. So for everyone saying Brighton were getting done by the ref, it was actually us.
I agreed. I agree.
Who's ever said that Brighton got done by the ref?
It's all over social
media, especially Twitter.
Brighton were done by the ref.
Yeah.
Why?
Because we got 3. The ref tried to give us 3 penalties when 2 of them clearly weren't penalties, and the third one, well, no one could argue with that.
Can't argue that. He's playing basketball.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I know.
Well, all I can just say is I'm surprised there's enough people interested in Brighton to go onto social media, given that the people who do the podcast couldn't be asked even to start the crossover podcast I'd organised to do on Friday night to put out on Saturday morning. I'm sitting waiting for a Zencastr out and still haven't heard anything from them.
Oh, Iain.
Zencastr link. I know. It was organised.
Oh,
Idiots.
well, that kindly leads us into our second advert from Zencastr.
I've got it here.
Oh.
Do you have a story to tell that the world needs to hear? Have you struggled with reaching new audiences who are engaged with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencastr makes it easy to start a high-quality podcast built for growth from day one. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes ums, ahs, your nose, why eyes, yes, your buggermans, and 22 other speech patterns, Zencastr makes it super easy to start a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Beautifully read.
Thank you.
Don't know how I'm going to take out the Y-eyes, but anyway, here we are. Right, we are in the third and final part of the review pod, and I want to focus on the Premier League table because I know I said we we're going to forget about the Brighton game, but I am just going to mention it one more time. It was an infuriating game for many reasons, but it could be a goal and a point that we look back on in 3 weeks' time, and it could be the point that got us into the Champions League. It is literally that tight on the Premier League table. So as we know, Liverpool kindly folded like deck chairs against Chelsea and got beat 3-1. So fantastic. Man City also got a result this weekend. So as currently stands, we have got Man City currently sitting in third on 64 points. And then we have got Newcastle and Chelsea. Well, we're fourth, Chelsea are fifth, but we are sitting on joint points. And then we have got Forest in sixth on 60 points. They have a game in hand. When do they play? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow
Yeah,
against
they play
Crystal
tomorrow
Palace.
against Crystal Palace. Right, fantastic.
Come on, Palace.
So, come on, Palace, yeah. My question to you is, how are we feeling going into the final 3 games of the season? Because I'm anxious, nervous. It's too close for my liking. I don't like it. Why can't we just do things properly and just secure things quickly? Why do we have to do it the Newcastle way? Michael, how are you feeling?
There's no fun in that. You've always got to
Don't
be
like
in there
it.
on the final day. There's got to be something to play for on the final day. I'll be honest, I'm a lot less confident than what I was at the start of the day. And despite us getting a good result, that is because of the Chelsea result. I am remembering that Chelsea have really poor fixtures. But if they play like they did today, they could easily get results from those, including the one against Newcastle. But I do think I'm confident that we can beat Chelsea. The late goal keeps it in our hands. Not that it wasn't if we beat Chelsea. Anyways, but if Chelsea had got a draw at St James's Park and we'd lost to Brighton, then all of a sudden, Forest,
Different
if
story.
they won the game in hand. It's all ifs and buts, maybes, but it's still in our hands. We can still get Champions League quite comfortably. And I think we should just relax and let the boys take it from here.
I wish I could take that approach. Iain?
Yeah, I think we'll know by this time next week if we're going to get Champions League, because if we've beaten Chelsea, I think it doesn't matter what we do at Arsenal then, as long as we can get something from the Everton game. The saving grace is that Chelsea play Forest on the last day of the season, so one of them's not picking up any points that day.
Big game, that one.
I think 6 points gets us up there. If we can beat Everton and Chelsea, that's our home games. We'll be okay. And of course, I'm still hoping that we can beat Arsenal for the 4th time in 4 games this season and get 9. And Man City somehow draw against Fulham in the last game of the season and we do pinch second. That'd be great.
Do we think we're going to
I
get
haven't cashed out
second?
my bet.
Yeah, don't
But no,
cash out the bet.
I think City will. I think we'll be third, and I think Arsenal will drop to 4th.
Ooh.
Chelsea will probably end up 5th. I think Forest are done. They've lost 3 and 4, so I think they'll get hammered tomorrow at Palace, who undressed Aston Villa last week.
Yeah,
I think Forest have gone, to be honest. So
City have
who
got the
left?
kinder
Left either.
fixtures, haven't they?
Yeah, Villa and or Chelsea to miss out as well. Maybe it'll be Chelsea because Chelsea lose at our place, but Forest might take something off them. I think Villa have got good fixtures too. Villa
Yeah.
could win all of their last three. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Well, I'm kind of hoping.
I'd far rather Villa were in rather than Chelsea because Chelsea are going to qualify for the Europa League anyway by winning the Conference League, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And also, we're probably going to see either Tottenham or Man United in the Champions League next year, which is baffling.
That's
I don't
brilliant.
understand how that has happened from a
Yes,
15th,
hoping we
16th.
get drawn against them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, from what are they, 15th and 16th in the league, by the way. I cannot believe it. And we're probably about to see one of them in the Champions League next season. I cannot cope with that. Anyway. So we're pretty much at the end of the pod, but let's just talk about how pivotal and important the win that we're going to get against Chelsea next week is. It's huge.
Yeah. Well, put it this way. If we don't win, we're not getting Champions League.
Why would you say that?
If we draw, we might. If we draw, we might.
If we draw, we need something off Arsenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Villa, I can see getting 69. If we win both home games, we're on 69. But we would have much superior goal difference. Chelsea, I can't see getting 2 wins from the last 3. Forest have a decent schedule. They would need them to pick up 9 points from 4, which is possible.
We need Palace to do a favour tomorrow.
Yeah, let's be honest. City, as Iain said, they could win their next 3 very easily, end up on 73. Arsenal, I have to be honest, they're beating Southampton, and I think they maybe beat us. Unfortunately, hopefully not, but I think they might, which would lead to them finishing above us as well. And then even if we drew against Chelsea, Villa would be above us, but 5th place would still be ours. Providing Forest don't turn up again.
Yeah, they've dropped off a little bit, haven't they, Forest?
Yeah. But I've started that sentence saying it's a must-win, and then I've gone, actually, if we draw, we might be all right. So
I need us to secure it before the last game of the season, to be honest, because what was going on on your camera, Michael?
We still have won 20 games in the last 27 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And one of them was a draw. So we've only lost 6. We're still way at the top.
Yeah.
In the last 15 games.
Oh, yeah.
We're in great form. And we've played poorly today and got the best ever result at that bogey ground. So be confident, Michael. Be confident. We always hammer Chelsea. We always beat Chelsea.
We need to hammer Chelsea, particularly because I am coming up for the Chelsea game and I don't want to waste a 3.5-hour drive, to be honest. So they need to win.
What was the score at the last game you went to?
We won.
Did we win?
Yeah, we got Forest 4-3.
Oh, I can't handle another one of those.
Was that my last game? Was that the last game I went to? Yeah, I was sat with Joe at the top. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't handle another one of those.
So if we could just wrap it up by 4-0, that'd be great. But I also need us to wrap up the Champions League by the last game of the season. No, I mean, like, securing it, because I'm not watching the last game of the season because I'm at my best friend's wedding. So I can't sit there at the wedding and be on my phone. So that's what I'm trying to say, people.
They'll understand. It's fine. Some things are more important than a lifetime of marriage.
Well, the groom is an Arsenal fan, so I don't think he's going to really care.
Maybe not.
Yeah, Michael's only got to that point of view where some things are more important than a lifetime of marriage since he's been married.
Yeah.
Strangely enough.
Me too, Michael, don't worry.
It's all right. We all understand.
We're a year in. It's fine.
I'm dragging you both down with me.
Hilarious. Right, that is it for the pod. We're done. So I don't know whether you enjoyed it or not, but it's done.
Loved it.
So it's
Loved
done.
it.
So we will be back on Tuesday with another episode. I don't know who's on Monday night.
It might be another Mac and Mickey Tuesday mashup. We never know.
It's supposed to be me, you, and Joe, Nicola.
Right. Okay. I am free, obviously, because I'm on the schedule.
I'd hope so.
Yes. See you tomorrow then. Thank you both for joining me.
No.
Play the tune.
I'm playing it.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.